Techniques for better blending. Hardly anyone talks about it, but all of us could benefit from knowing what the preset light paths have to do with the render that we're doing. What's the best choice between quality and the time it takes to render? I had that question, and so I spent about 10 minutes finding out for myself and taking screenshots. This is a screenshot of zeros. Here, the light paths you can see are all set to 0. This is GIMP. Shift plus will zoom in where the mouse is. Forget limited global illumination. The zeros are overridden by bounces, maximum 0, and transparency, maximum 0. I didn't have to set everything to 0, but I did it to prove a point. The next thing, of course, I tried was direct light, which in Blender is the next option. And what it does is provides 8 bounces, maximum and minimum, for transparency and for all of these unless they're set lower. So at diffuse, glossy, transmission, and volume set to levels below 8, I do kind of wonder where the 8 comes from in the bounce settings. And the results, if we go back and forth, are actually not too hard to see. There's a little bit of extra light that comes in using that preset. The time that it took to render that, 1 minute 36 seconds. With everything turned off, 1 minute 29 seconds. It's just a few seconds for just a small difference. Well, what if you go big and change it now all the way to the mother of preset light paths, full global illumination. Minimums at 8 and 3, maximums at 128, caustics enabled. Certainly that is going to provide the most exciting render, right? And here it is compared to the direct light. Oh, it lights up all those shadows really nicely. It doesn't bleach out the sun. It adds a little bit more yellow to what I wanted was a yellow sun. And it keeps the dark face of the mountain fairly dark. Now compare full global illumination of its 128 samples with my 0. Okay, big difference. Big difference, especially in the nooks and crannies where you want light to bounce around and play. And frankly, I worked hard to get the right color that I desired on those trees, and full global illumination delivered. Full global illumination, 3 minutes 51 seconds for that change. Now, you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? From full global illumination, you can go one more step to limited global illumination. Instead of 128, it maxes out at 8s. And the diffuse, glossy, transmission, and volume are reduced to single digits, 1, 4, 8, and 2. Caustics are turned off. These are defaults, mind you. This isn't something that I had done. And so the difference between limited global illumination and my own is also a bunch of nice color in those shaded trees. And those trees are dark. I used a material that brought in a real darkness down at the bottom. I don't know if you can quite tell, but down around the bottoms of those trees, I wanted them to be dark, as though they'd been water soaked. So the limited global illumination also preserves the shadows and brings in the nice color in those darks and makes the sun look yellow, which is what I wanted, kind of a yellow sun with a nice blue sky. So what are we talking about for render times? Once again, 1 minute 29 seconds for my own set of zeros. Full global illumination, 3 minutes 51 seconds. Limited global illumination, 219, 351 and 219. That's nearly a minute and quite a bit of change. I mean, arguably, we could say that's almost 2 minutes difference. That's 4, and that's about 2. So what's the difference between full global illumination and limited global illumination? This is limited. This is full. More noise in the full, and otherwise, not a great deal of change in this scene, with tens of thousands of particles and shadows. Full, limited. Full, limited. less noise in those highlights bouncing around. Full, limited. So arguably, it's a better render with the same basic qualities of render in less time. It added about 30% to my render time. And that difference is really good in preserving some of the colors and shadows that I'd been trying for. And obviously I am working to create something of a ski slope scene, and to me, that's pretty exciting. These presets for the light path are things we should all know. Blend on, and take care.